So Coala, indeed, for the user, what it does is code analysis for a lot of different language via one unified interface. But one of the main thoughts of, and that was also how we designed Coala, is it's modular, and the goal is to reduce the redundancy. If you want to start writing a new linter for your gorgeous new programming language, then what you would do without Coala is write a complete new tool. And the thing is that half of the code that you would write is actually already being written, because that's the user interface. And at least the big tools are spending a hell lot of time on the user interface, on the usability, and they all get different usabilities, and that confuses the user. So it's actually bad for everyone. And what this modular concept allows us is to not only wrap existing tools, but make the creation of new static code analysis more easy.
Well, I know that because, I've looked at various tools, like the interface to Perl Critic is very different from the interface to Lint. And yet they're both doing roughly similar things, which is, where are the files that I'm going to scan? Do I perform automatic fixes in those files? I don't think Lint does that, but I know Perl Critic has, actually Perl Critic doesn't do that either, but imagine something that could actually do automatic fixes. Where's my config file? Where's my, what directories do I descend into, if any, and so on. So how is Coala providing this unified interface, and how much work does it take to add it to a new language?
So I think those are two very different questions, if I got them right.
Answer them both eventually then.
Yes. So Coala takes a core file, which is like a make file, and we draw specific inspiration from the simplicity of make that I liked. Like concerning the invocation, I just type make and it picks up my configuration file and my project gets made. And the same happens with Coala. You have the core file, which is a hidden file with a dot in the front, so it doesn't clutter your view. And that is a very simple ini-like file where you can just specify the analysis that you want to run in one line and the files that you want to run on in a second line, and then you're basically done. If you want to lint multiple programming languages, you can just make a second ini section, define a second set of analysis on a second set of files, and you're done. So it's one configuration that you can use for your whole project, right? Does that answer your first question?
Yeah.
Okay. And the second one was like, how can you extend it for a new programming language, right?
I think that's close, yeah.
Basically, if you have a new programming language and there is an existing linter for it, then you can wrap that linter very easily into Coala from the developer side, right? We essentially have a framework that allows you to specify, like, this linter has an output that looks roughly like this, and then you provide a regular expression, and then you will get the results automatically right into Coala. So it's usually a 10-line, 15-minute thing to integrate an existing linter into Coala.
And is that the way that it's mostly done? So that was going to be my first question is, there's all these different programming languages that this supports. Are you getting that compatibility by integrating other linters, or is this done writing its own linters, from scratch?
So it's a combination. We are trying to get more and more native own routines, because we think we can write code analysis that actually works on multiple programming languages. We think that we can write code analysis that can work on C, Python, and whatever, and that doesn't necessarily need an AST. So we're currently trying to get ahead on this. But the reality is that nowadays, mostly of what's the most useful functionality is just wrapped existing tools.
Ah, okay. Because I thought, you must be super programmer or something because you know all these languages so well that you've written all these linters. And of course, there's a community involved, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so that makes sense. So you're integrating those other linters, and we should probably back up for a second. Not everyone's a programmer that listens to this. So what is linting anyway? Why do we need linting? What does it do?
So I would define linting as the process of, like, a program would look through your source code and it would annotate your source code in different places, and it would tell you what you can do better. And that helps you being a better programmer, and that helps you writing better source code and avoiding bugs. And this helps you as a company to get more revenue, as a programmer to save time, save frustrations, right? And that's essentially a linter. And if you have a FAR definition, then a linter can also sometimes automatically fix those things, because in a lot of cases, a lot of linters just complain about tons of white space issues, and that then is totally annoying if you have to fix 1,000 white space issues manually. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, certain languages like Python, for example, there's tabs versus spaces, and things have to be very specific. So I'm assuming, I'm going to try this in a minute, I think, on one of my Python programs to see how it works. But in Python, you have to be very specific about, indenting, because that's what the interpreter looks for when you run your program, to know, oh, this part of the code is actually a subcomponent of this part of the code. Otherwise, it gets confused. And Python objects. When you run it, it objects fairly well, but knowing how to fix that, like you were saying, the white space issue. And I imagine this is huge for consistency, right? Because in a big company, you're going to have, 20, 30 programmers maybe working on a single project. So I assume that this can help with consistency issues as well, right?
Certainly. Especially all those code style things. Linting is not only about code style. But especially those code style things, you can usually discuss hours and hours over them. And the result of the discussion is usually actually meaningless. Because whether you put your parenthesis on the top of the line or on the next line, in the end, it doesn't really matter. But what matters is that you are consistent. And developers prefer to write their code in a different style. So it's actually very, very convenient to have a tool that actually just, you invoke it after writing your code however you want, and it makes it look right.